Guys. Thanks for coming. A busy week last week, so I appreciate you guys being here today. Feels better to walk in this year than in years past. But honestly, it's an abrupt end of the season. It's painful. It's painful because we set our goals high. We're proud of what we accomplished. We're not satisfied. If anything, I feel like it drives us more as we go forward. And last season I look back, it was about momentum, and really momentum that started when we hired Matt. And I felt like that just continued. 12-4, winning the division, making the playoffs. Those are all things that we're proud of. But it's on us to ensure that we're on the right track and that we stay on the right track. I want to thank our players, our coaches, and our staff, and definitely our fans. Last season we had a lot of highs, but there's definitely more to come as we go forward, and we're excited about that. So with that, we'll be happy to take any questions.
Ryan, what attracted you to Chuck Pagano and use Walter speaking?
Really, the coach, those are Matt's hires, so he's better to speak on that.
Yeah, no, it was you get into a situation there like we did as everything happened at the end of the season, as every team, and teams are dealing with it today after, abrupt losses last night. And there's just a lot of things that go on with your players, your coaches. And so Vic ended up getting a great opportunity. He did that. And the next part was now we got to figure out what's next. And so that's exactly what we did. I think with Chuck from the times that we talked and just kind of seeing where he's at. Number one, I always say this, it starts off with good people and good high character. So that's number one. Then you get to the second part, that's the X's and O's part. And everything that we talked about in the interview is really what I enjoy and what I think can be really good with this defense. He has an attacking style, mentality. He is aggressive, but yet, as we try to talk about all the time, being calculated too. You got to be smart with it, but he's been doing it for a long time. He's been in this league for a while. He's had a lot of success. He's been around some really, really good defenses, some really, really good players on defense. And, the more we talked, the more that I felt like, this is a really good, perfect fit for us, and just really looking forward to it and excited for it.
And because the defense was so successful last year, how did you weigh going outside to fill that position versus maybe promoting someone from within?
Sure, yeah, those are all things that you look into, and we interviewed Ed Donatel. He did a great job. Ed's been he's just a guy that has done a lot of good things for us, and just have a lot of respect for him. But we need to do whatever's best for this organization, the players, the coaches, and then you take it all together and you just weigh it out and you see how it fits. And so that was definitely something that we looked into, and that's a part of the process for us too. That was important.
Matt, is Ed going to be back?
We're working through that right now. There's a possibility, but he was out of contract, so he has a decision to make. But again, a lot of times I'm going to start off with the people side on who these guys are, and the coach's side. And so I have a ton of respect for him. It's very mutual between both of us, and we're working through that.
What's the future of Cody Parkey, and how surprised were you that he appeared on the Today Show last Friday?
Yeah, David, we know that position is an emphasis for us. Like, I think we understand we need to get better there. We need more production out of that position. And Matt talks about it all the time. There's so much parity in our league, so many close games. The kicker position is critical. So we know we need to get better there, and it'll be an area of focus.
Will he be a Bear?
Those are things that need to play out as we go into it.
Matt was always.
He was going to appear on the Today Show. Did you talk to him before he did that?
No, so I have exit interviews with all 65 players on the team. It doesn't matter who you are. We get together and interview, and Cody was obviously did my interview with him, and we had a good interview. It was not brought up at that time. I mean, there's so much stuff that goes on right after the game with just so many different things. So we that wasn't brought up at the time.
Whenever Matt had a chance to talk about Cody during the season, he was 100% supportive. He didn't bring people in during the rough times. Will there be competition this offseason at the bare minimum?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think, again, that's going to be an emphasis of focus for us, the kicker position, and there'll definitely be competition there. Yeah.
Matt, are there any other staff changes that you know of at this point that you can?
We're going through all that right now, and literally I haven't taken a breather since last weekend. It's been nonstop since starts off with the players, and then it happened with Vic's departure. Now it's the coaches. So, as you guys can all imagine, I mean, it's phone calls from everybody, from everywhere. But what we need to do is just, again, everybody work together, talk, use resources, and try to figure out. We don't need to rush into decisions. That's the beauty of where we're at right now. So make sure we do it the way we feel is best for the team and take our time with whatever we need to do. But we're working through all that.
Ryan, how certain are you that Trey Burton's injury for the Eagles game was not anxiety related?
Marcus, we went through that. So, Trey, he practiced Friday, just reflecting back on that. And then Saturday, he woke up with inflammation in the groin area. So all our MRIs, all our scans show that. So it's significant. So we talked through that really every second. And for us, our doctors and what the test revealed, that was a real injury that he had to deal with. We were hopeful it would calm down by kickoff. Unfortunately, he didn't. Our expectations would be, if we were fortunate enough to win that game, he could have been ready the next week, but he wasn't ready that game.
But even as real as the injury was, could that have been triggered by some anxiety issues that he's had?
It's hard to tell, Mark, where it came from. We just know that, that thing popped up Saturday morning and he was unable to play.
So you're not concerned about that being an issue, the anxiety part being an issue going forward?
No.
Going back to Cody, really,
Because of Vic's familiarity, because of his continuity with the defense, you were able to give him a lot of freedom and ownership.
Yeah.
How do you see that unfolding with Chuck, and what is the value of his long track record of experience?
So you have to take that into consideration. We had a lot of success last year as a defense and as a team, but as we talked about it to our guys when they left, this is going to be a new year, and so it's important that the players trust in us as coaches and us as an organization, that we hire the right next people, and that's what we're in the middle of doing right now. And so far between Chuck and myself, just talking through everything, we have a solid plan on how we're going to go about doing it, and I think everybody can feel really comfortable with what we're going to do.
Your desire to give him a lot of ownership is similar to how much?
Oh yeah, very, very similar. He's been in this thing for a long time and has had a lot of success. We're gonna we're gonna start building our relationship day by day, just like Vic and I did. And I'll have to gain on the professional side of it. He'll have to gain trust, and I'll have to gain trust back and forth with each other. But that's the beauty of it. And then you do that, and you start giving ideas, and you start feeling more comfortable in the environment together. But really, it'll be nice, and I feel like it'll be a pretty seamless transition.
Matt, you mentioned that Cody didn't tell you about the Today Show in the exit interview. When did you find out about it, and what do you think of it?
Well, I found out. I don't even know the exact time that it was, but for me, and you understand that we always talk about a we and not a me thing, and we always talk as a team. We win as a team. We lose as a team, and I didn't necessarily think that was too much of a we thing.
I was going to say, did you think it was appropriate?
Again, I didn't think it was a we thing.
It was a year ago, you said you expressed your faith in the roster and the chance to build from 3 tough seasons. Where's your confidence now? What you guys can do ahead?
Yeah, it's good. Just meeting with the scouts about it. It's nice, and I've said this before to you guys. It's nice to be able to walk into a depth chart and not see green magnets over the whole board. We can kind of fine tune and tweak as we go forward. We got a lot of young guys. We got a lot of guys under contract, and we got a lot of guys hitting their peaks right now. So, but as we approach this off season, we're still going to be aggressive. We're always going to be pushing it, and I think that's a challenge to our scouting department to always be improving our roster, and that'll be the focus.
Ryan,
What update do you have? Khalil Mack's not playing Pro Bowl because of an injury. What update do you have on that?
Yeah, so he tweaked his knee in our final. It's a knee sprain in our final game, so it's nothing that we're overly concerned about, but it'll prevent him from playing in the Pro Bowl.
Is there any updates on off-season surgeries for any of you guys?
Really, we're pretty fortunate in that area. Really, one player, Anthony Miller, will have a shoulder surgery, and that's really the only significant one.
Ryan, so much talk about Mitchell's growth over the season, but we haven't talked to you since training camp. So what are your thoughts on Mitchell's growth, maturity this season? What impressed you the most, and what do you want to see him moving forward?
Yeah, I think it was just good to see the natural growth just in the offensive scheme as he gained more comfort, and then also more comfort with the players that are around him, that chemistry that developed. And I was just talking to Mitch today about that, just the excitement about going into an off season, with the pieces in place around him, and then year 2 in the same offensive scheme and how much growth can take place. So I just felt like you saw him playing more with his instincts because he was more comfortable in the system.
Matt, we haven't had a chance to talk to you since the game. A lot of talking last week, specifically about Tariq Cohen only getting 4 touches on offense throughout the game. As you went back and looked at it after the game, was it just what the Eagles were doing to you guys, or what all went into that?
I think it was pretty much a little bit of a combination of that, and you guys have seen it all year long. Sometimes there's games where he might get a lot more touches. I don't think it had anything to do with when he was out on the field, and sometimes when we have a play called, it's supposed to go to him and it doesn't because they take him away. So it can be at times, when you only get so many targets or touches. There's times where me as a coach, I'm going to get challenged on those situations. It's not. If you think that I don't want to get Tariq Cohen the ball, then we need to reevaluate where we're at, because I don't think you know me too well. So could I go back and wish he had more touches? Absolutely, but I can't. And so now what I need to do is figure out if teams are going to try to take him away certain ways, and how do we get other guys the ball, and how do I get him the ball more when they try to take him away.
Overall, what do you think of the ebbs and flows of your offense?
It was probably what I thought would happen when you talked to me at the beginning of the season, that you would love it to be at the very bottom and then just continue to go one track the whole way. That didn't happen. There were some highs and there were some lows. You think about the Tampa Bay game and how great that was, and then you think of some of these other games where, whether it was a half or a quarter, where it just didn't look very good. But to me, what I'm most excited about is when we get to OTAs and we get to training camp, I can't even begin to explain how pumped up I am to take what we just put together this past year and fine-tune it to our players and our coaches and our scheme, and then just get it down to what we think gives us a better opportunity to be much better next year.
Alan kind of talked about, that OTA period where you're not working on getting guys lined up anymore. They kind of have the football 101.
Right.
Is that where this
Yeah.
kind of take off?
Yeah, so think about this. These guys, this was learning a new language when they got here April 3rd. They had no idea, no clue. So when we go line up out at practice, they're trying to figure out, what's my split? Is it -2 from the top of the numbers? Is it +2 from the bottom of the numbers? Am I in the alley split? Where am I? They all know that now. We're speaking the same lingo. So when we show up and those guys show up for OTAs now they're on to, remember I kept saying 101, now we're on to 202. And I hope, at least it's my job and our coach's job, to make sure that happens. And our guys are, from the exit interviews that we had, they're really excited to get back to that.
Ryan, when you look at the final 4 teams left, do you see any common thread that connects them that you apply to your own roster and say, okay, we need to do this better?
That's a good question, David. I think when you look at that, you see balance. Balance in both passing game and run game. You see continuity. That I think has existed there. Those are the things that stand out.
Ryan, you guys hired Vic back last year. You talked about the continuity and what he allowed you to do on that side of the ball. And given how well the defense performed, what does a change of coordinator do to either jeopardize that momentum, and how do you make sure that it stays on that track?
Yeah. I think first for Vic, just talking about him real quick, we couldn't be happier for him. Talk about a guy who's done it the right way. He's just kept his head down and worked and earned this opportunity. And there's only 32 of them, so, Matt and I met with him a lot over those, last couple days, and you're just so happy and proud of Vic to be in that spot, and wish him nothing but the best, because you know how we feel about him. But as we go forward, Matt, as we talk, it's an old cliche, but you're never staying the same. You're getting better, you're getting worse. We need to make sure we're getting better. So a guy like Chuck, the more research we did, it was almost like with Matt, everybody you talk to, it just starts bringing you into this person. And Chuck just checks a lot of boxes that are exciting to be a part of. Like Matt talked about the aggressive mentality. He's a great person. He's a great evaluator. He's had success where he's been in the past. He's great dealing with people. He's very collaborative. Those are all things that kept on coming up the more we met with him or talked about him. So that's exciting. I think it'll be good for our defense. And we've got a lot of good players on that side of the ball, and we're just looking forward to continue to improve.
In that respect, how much will these guys be learning a new defense or learning a new language? How much actual adjustment phase will there be?
Yeah, I think that's something, Matt and Chuck talked about as they went through the process. And I think, there's obviously going to be some kind of a blend. We've done a lot of good things, but I'm sure Chuck's going to bring a lot of good things to add to the table as well.
Yeah, they're in a, we're in a position here where they both have the 3-4 scheme family, and we've talked about it before, where when you see all these 11 personnel offenses that teams are playing, you're in more sub defense, 4 down, and so you're talking about a minimal part of the game when you talk as far as 3-4 versus sub. But then you have the language part of it and where they're at. And again, there's some familiarity there. You got to remember Vic and Chuck worked together in Baltimore.
So whether it's preseason or training camp or whatever, early season, might there be some kind of step back relative to this year before you take a step forward?
Well, we just have to see. That'll be really neat to see how that goes, and we'll have to monitor that throughout the OTAs and getting into training camp. But anytime you have a change like this, it's not like going into year 5 of the same defense. There's that's expected, but it's how fast can you get it back up. Now, it's also Chuck is he understands what he's coming into here player wise, and we all as coaches understand too that when you're surrounded by good players, a lot of times it's the players and not the plays, and so Chuck has tons of experience. He gets that, and he'll do everything he can to make sure that we keep this thing rolling.
As far as steps forward, what do you identify as next for Mitchell?
For Mitchell, yeah. So for him, he conquered the next play mentality. He conquered that. He conquered the steps of 101 progressions. By the end of the year, he was reading progressions 1, 2, 3, run. Right. That he conquered. Now I think level 2 next year is going to be him really recognizing pre-snap what he's about to see from these defenses. So last year he was so focused in on what do we do on offense? Hell, I've never run this offense before. What does that mean? Now he knows it all, and now he can take that next step of figuring out, okay, here they come. They got a saw blitz, cover 0. Now I know what to do. I know what to check to, or I know where to put, protection, all that. That's going to be the big one for him.
Do you guys have as much faith in Jordan Howard going forward this year as you seem to have from the start of training camp this year?
Yeah, for me, just dealing with all of our players on our team. That's for me what I think has been the most unique part to this first year together on all sides, offense and defense, getting to see who these players are. And so, everyone talks about the run game. It wasn't as good as it should be, and the offense can be better without a doubt, no doubt. So I'm really excited. I'm not there yet, but I'm excited to get with the coaches here in the next couple weeks and start really evaluating these guys and seeing the why part. When you're going game by game, week by week, you think and you're watching it, but then you're on to that next opponent so quick that you're not the scheme eval part hasn't occurred. When we start diving into the scheme eval and we really truly know the why part, then that's where we're going to have more answers with the whole offense.
Right. To that point, what do you sense that this offense needs from a personnel standpoint to continue the building that you guys already started a year ago with that free agent class?
Yeah, Rich, I think there's natural build just as they're together longer. You know what I mean? But as far as what we're going to add or what we're going to do, that's kind of the stage we're in now. So last week was about meeting with the players. This week's been more about strengthening the coaching staff, and then now it's going to be establishing our offseason needs. So we're really not there yet, but that's in the coming weeks.
Where did
last year about the health of this team and trying to stay healthier? This year you guys stayed much healthier than you had in years past. Can you pinpoint reasons why it was such a dramatic upturn in the fortune you guys had?
Yeah, we've thought a lot about that, Dan, as we've gone forward. I think, we had the fewest players on IR in the NFL. In previous years, we were near the top. Same thing with games missed by starters. But I think there's a couple of factors that go into that. First, I think there's a focus in the personnel department on signing durable, available players and professional players that take care of their bodies. Second, there was a lot of schedule changes that took place, just how we practice, when we practice. We overhauled strength and conditioning, athletic training room, so that's a credit to Andre and Jason and Jen. And then lastly, I think, sometimes there's a little good fortune that comes your way too. So I think it was a combination of things. We need to hone into that and make sure we continue that, because that's a huge advantage for us this year. That was a dramatic difference.
Do you think it's repeatable? Obviously, to have the lowest number on IR is an accomplishment.
It's tough because I think there is a little bit of good fortune that comes your way. There's no question. But I think we're doing things right now that help put us on the right track. I really like where we're at in the weight room, in the training room, and then again, what we're doing with our schedules.
Where did Bryce Callahan leave?
What did you think of Roquan's practice this season?
Yeah, it was huge to watch him just kind of flourish, especially in the later part of the year. And, you talk to Roquan, and you can just feel him, no different than any player, just feeling comfortable in the defense. So now he's not thinking as much. He's just playing with his instincts, and he's playing fast. And you guys know Roquan, those are his greatest strengths, his instincts and his speed. So the sky's the limit for him. It's exciting to see him grow, and I think you saw a glimpse of what he's going to be, especially in the later part of the season.
Piggybacking off of that, as the whole sort of rookie class draft-wise, what are sort of your impersonations of that group as a whole after the season?
I like it a lot. The guys that we brought in, we were talking about a few weeks ago. You never know how many you're going to hit on, and so I don't know if we even truly know right now. But from what we've seen, we feel really confident with that group. We see a lot of high ceiling with these guys. If we could go back and do it again, I'd do it again. I think that it's just a credit to these guys, Ryan and his guys. They put in a lot of hard work, and we collaborate together. And when you do that, and you get guys that believe in everything, then that's what happens.
Ryan, where did Bryce Callahan exit in terms of his recovery, and how would you evaluate his season?
Yeah, no, he had a good season. He's gotten better and better. He's a great example of a college free agent that's just grown here and developed here that we're proud of. So he played really well. So he's on the right track with his recovery. Obviously, that's something we're going to monitor. We know he's a free agent. We like Bryce, but that's got to play out.
Ryan, you kind of touched on this, but is it more on Chuck to adapt what he does to the personnel here, or is it more on the players to kind of change a little bit what they have to do in his scheme?
We'll get through that 100% of the way, but the direction is probably more to start is to let these guys are our defense is comfortable with what they've done, but they know that change is coming. So there's always that, what's next. So what we'll do is make sure that that Chuck is going to have to come in and see, okay, schematically, this is what we called it last year. This is what I do. I do the same play. This is what I call it. And then you got to figure out how you want to, how that's going to go. But there'll be some evaluation that has to go on from Chuck. But in the end, I feel comfortable knowing that Chuck is by no means a guy that says, hey, we're coming in, we're doing it this way, we got it, blah, 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 and none of that. That's not who he is, and I don't think that's what's going to happen.
What were some of the moments for you when you watched Mitch this year, where there was a play, a game, that told you that there was the progress you were hoping to see from him?
There's a lot, and it all kind of runs together now. But I think anytime, especially with that position, you're looking for when they hit adversity, and then how they respond from that adversity, And so I think, even as most recent as a playoff game, you go down to that final drive, and to see how he responded in that environment, I think is really encouraging, and just his mental toughness to persevere through those things, and I think that bodes well for the future.
I'll piggyback that playoff game, what he did at the end. That's that. You go back to your one question about growth and where he's at progression-wise. You can't make those up, and he did it.
Ryan, does Kareem Hunt's baggage eliminate him from consideration as a free agent?
That's a good question. As we go into that, obviously there's a lot of things off the field that he's got to take care of. Matt knows Kareem Hunt. I don't know Kareem, but those things are all going to have to play out. Yeah.
After the game, you talked about wanting the players to feel the pain of that loss. Are you still feeling that? And what's this last week been like for you, knowing you plan to be game planning right now?
Yeah, it's sickening to be sitting there doing what we did last week. I don't want that. None of our guys want it. I'd be lying to you if I told you I didn't watch the games. I just got that junkie in me that wants to watch it. I just figure, you just get better doing that. You get it almost makes you hurt more when you watch them than when you're away from them. But we're all competitors, and we all want to be, in the end, playing 3 more weeks down the road here from where we're at. And but our guys, one of the powerful things I took from our exit meetings was they came away telling me truly how convicted they were in their feelings of us this year and where we could have really went, and none of it was made up. And so that's why I'm so excited, and it keeps you going, is because we started something. Now we also went back to, like Ryan said, you're either getting worse or you're getting better, and we're going to hammer that home that we did everything that we did this past year, throw it out the window. It means nothing. Now we're 0-0, and that's the challenge. That's the new challenge. And so we got the foundation. It's getting started, but it hurts, and I'll probably hurt more here in the next couple of weeks watching more games. But that's where we want to be.
So Matt, if Ryan asked you your recommendation on whether or not the Bears as an organization should pursue Kareem Hunt, what would you tell him?
So going back to what he said, there's one thing right now with Kareem, and that's worrying about him as a person. He's, I talked to Kareem and completely wanted to know how he's doing, and we had a good conversation. And here's a kid that I spent a year coaching on offense. It's a tough situation. I wanted to see making sure that he's okay, but understanding too that the situation that happened is unfortunate for everybody, and he knows that. So the only thing I cared about when I talked to him was literally his personal life, how he's doing, and it was a good conversation. He sounded good, but that's it. I mean, the other stuff, that's not where it's at. It's about there's more to it than the football. So we talked strictly on that. It was about a week ago. Yeah.
What was your experience with him in the year that you had him? How would you describe who he is?
Yeah, I had a really good experience with him, and I think that on the football field you can see what he does. He's a kid that came out. We had Spencer Ware that went down with an ACL in the preseason, and he came in who we didn't really truly know 100% how he's going to be as a player, and then. So everything that he ended up leading the league in rushing last year as a rookie. So that speaks right there. As far as the person, there was with me and coaching him and all that stuff, there was no issues at all. He was a really, really good kid. He came to work every day, wasn't late for meetings, any of that. So it was obviously a surprise, and it's an unfortunate situation for everybody. We all understand it. It's a learning lesson for everybody, and that's the biggest thing is making sure that that he understood that when I talked to him, and but I also understand there's other parties involved, and so does he. So that's life, and you want to make sure that you handle it the right way.
Does he deserve a second chance? Does he deserve a second chance?
Well, I'm a guy who I don't care who you are. Here's what I'll say to this. Everybody's position, everybody has, when you talk about second chances, well, what's the second chance? Is it what's your situation? And so with him, that's not for me to decide. I will say this, that me personally, depending on certain people's situations, I'm a guy that has always been that. Now, I've been kind of raised that way to give guys second chances, not third chances, but I've kind of learned that through Coach Reed. He's done that several times with some people. And but I also say that every situation is different. So it's that's his situation, and I wanted to talk to him as a true personal side.
Ryan, would your past signing troubled players affect or factor into your decision-making process with Kareem Hunt?
Dave, I think every one of those is unique. Every one is different. All the circumstances are always different. So we're not even there yet. You know what I mean? It's just, I know what he is as a player, obviously, from watching him. Matt knows a little bit more about him as a person, but we're not even close to that point.
Ryan, when you signed Matt a year ago, who's a guy who had limited offensive coordinator experience and never been a head coach, how did he answer the questions you had about what sort of head coach he would be during the course of the season?
Oh, I think, yeah. I mean, I think first of all, when you meet somebody and right away, you kind of know, like you feel it instantly. And then every single day that we've been together is just confirmation that he is the perfect head coach for this franchise. And it's just going to get better and better as we go forward. We work so well together. He's very natural in this role. And I think, I've said this before, we're very, very fortunate to have him as our head coach. Just him, I know he says it all the time, but just how comfortable he is in his own skin. Just be yourself, just be you. And I think he doesn't try to, I know he has a blueprint from Andy Reid and he respects him, but Matt's just himself. And I think the players feel that, the staff feels that, and if you do that every day, it comes off natural and organic, and I think that's very attractive.
Man, how would you judge the job Chris Tabor did with your special teams this year overall?
Yeah, well, so again, we're at the start of all that with the scheme eval, so we'll go through and hammer through. There's so much to look at, but I'm more than happy with what he's done. I think that you know, it's amazing. Sometimes you take, I'm just using for example, a kickoff return, and you return one for 95 yards for a touchdown, and how that can sway your numbers so much and your stats, you know. So we got to dig into the why part. Where can we get better? I have too much respect for him. I know what, you know, we had an amazing collaboration this year, both in practice and during the game. I love having him here. I think he's done a great job, and he, more than anybody, wants to improve and get better there, and we're going to help him in any way we can.
I know that
Did you see enough out of this year? Did you see enough out of two things? Leonard Floyd to pick up the fifth-year option, or maybe not to that point. And realistically, can you bring back Callahan, Massey, you know, the three starters?
Yeah. I think with Leonard, you know, that's a fair question, and our plan is to pick up that fifth-year option. So he played well, and we're happy where he's at. So, and I feel like Leonard's still doing this, and I think you felt that as the season was going on. So that's something we plan on doing. As far as all the UFAs, I think we have 14 UFAs, so we have to go through all of them. Some of them are starters, some of them are key players, and that's kind of where we're at right now, just with our coaches and scouts, evaluating our own roster. We need to get that right first, and then establish the offseason plan.
Right, I think you guys projected they have 20 million salary cap space. Is that enough to make things work? Would you like to have more flexibility? Usually you've had more at your disposal.
Yeah, you know, we're going to challenge ourselves. We're always going to be improving this roster, and that's my job, to ensure our roster is always getting better, whatever avenue that is. So whether it's cap space or our draft picks, we're going to strive to improve this roster in every area. So, you know, I think back, there was a draft in 2012, an organization I was part of. We didn't have a first-round pick, we didn't have a second-round pick, but we had a third-round pick, and that was Akeem Hicks. So there's ways for us to nail this offseason, even with resources are a little bit more limited.
Ryan, when you reflect back on signing Cody 10 months ago, what's your self-assessment on the evaluation process, what you got right, what you might have missed on?
Yeah, you know, I think, you know, obviously, you know, however many UFAs we signed last year, you're never going to hit at 1,000, you know, and you know, I know Cody wishes he had a better season. We wish he had a better season too. So, you know, we just got to evaluate that now, and I think you got to be honest with yourselves in these, you know. And I think as we go forward, that's when we got to be real and say, hey, that's an important position for us. It's a position of emphasis. We want more production out of that position, and we're going to get that. We're going to strive for that. That's going to be an area of focus. So we're not going to hit on every. Our goal is, of course, to hit on every draft pick and every UFA, but that's just not reality. So sometimes when that doesn't happen, you have to self-reflect and be honest, and then improve it going forward.
How do you balance guaranteed money for a guy who's down the road, but also the need to improve?
Yeah, we talk about those things, but the most important thing is performance.
Matt, kind of going off that, in terms of dealing with specialists kind of extensively for the first time, what was it like working with Cody this season, and you know the vibe you got in your exit interview?
Yeah, it with Cody, I just thought that, you know, he did everything. We never, when he went through the lows early on and had that game where he missed several, you know, everybody wanted to know, how did I handle him? What did I say? It was very, very brief. I don't believe really too much in getting into those mind games with kickers. It's very similar to golf. You start messing with their heads and it can go, so are you going to be a yeller or screamer and now they're scared to death to kick the next one, or are you going to sit there and not say anything? I think I was in the middle. You know, I tried to support him as much as I could, give him confidence when he was going through the lows. And then when he got Special Teams Player of the Week the following week, not pump him up too much, just tell him good job. It's what we expect. Throughout the year, it wasn't like we talked every day or every week. You know, when I needed to, if I felt like I needed to, I'd say something to him. And then it took us to the very end in our exit interview, where Cody is what you see what he was. He wishes that he would have made that last one. We had a good talk about it. He understands where I'm at in regards to, hey, you know, you're here to make those. But at the same time, he didn't want to miss it. He didn't try it, but he did. And so in the end, it's always, everyone talks. We're all evaluated and judged on it. It's about production and the results. So it was fun.
The ball's tipped at the line of scrimmage. Was that blocked up the right way? And is that on the kicker to get a greater loft?
Yeah, again, that's what they're showing and saying, and there's just so many variables that go into it. You see it, and I don't know. I mean, if there's so many different ways of how hard is a ball kicked, where when it gets tipped, it affects the way it goes. What's the trajectory of a 43-yard field goal when you're kicking that, the blocking assignments? But everything was, I mean, and then there's also the element of the other team trying to make a good play too. So there's just so many variables. The end result is we didn't make it.
Right. As you look at Matt and his work, specifically with Mitch, you hired him to make that pairing. What was your impression of the way they worked together and how Mitch responded to Matt's presence?
Yeah, I think it was really good. I think, first of all, I think as you go forward and Mitch gets more comfortable with the scheme, but then Matt gets more comfortable with Mitch too. And I think that's what happens with coaches. It's not just the quarterback, it's the entire roster. So that's, as we go into year two, it's our coaches understanding, okay, this guy does this really well. Maybe it's a receiver. This receiver does this really well, but he's not really good in this area. So you can kind of curtail the offense to fit their strengths and weaknesses. So that's going to take place naturally as we go forward. So I think you could just feel the relationship between those two grow. You talk about important relationships in the building. The head coach, play caller, and the quarterback, that's pretty critical, and we feel strong about that relationship.
Brian, if player A became available and he had the same track record as Antonio Brown, would you any interest to go after that player?
Yes.
Ryan, what would allow this team and this roster to go beyond where you guys did, beyond the wild card weekend and deeper into the playoffs?
So,
What would allow this team to make progress from where you guys did from the wild card round and go beyond that?
I just think, we're always going to fight complacency and status quo. We're pushing every single day to improve this team, improve this roster, and that's the window we're in right now. I feel like windows open and close. We're in a coaching window right now to improve our staff, and that's what's taking place. And then the player acquisition periods are going to open, and we're going to do everything we can to improve our roster. And I think that's what's going to take, to get us to the next step. But I just think naturally, as we grow together again in defensive schemes and offensive schemes, I'm so excited about this offseason, these OTAs and training camp, to see that happen, and I think we're at a point now, again, when you look at our roster, it's exciting for us as a personnel department to be aggressive, but it doesn't feel overwhelming. Like, we can fine tune and tweak and add the right pieces, and we're at that stage right now, and that's exciting going forward.
With Kyle Long returning to the field, I know you said individual eval is still going on, but did that give you a little bit more faith that you can get past that sort of trend the last 3 years of playing roughly half the season and be able to stay healthy and be a part of this team?
Yeah, I think, when he had a unique year in the fact that, came in learning the offense, being a leader in the room, and then had that injury, and was able to go ahead and work back to a position where he can play again, and got back in there. And he's such he's a big guy, and so being able to play against big defensive tackles and three techniques, he helps you there. But I was proud of how he handled this year, how he got through it both mentally and physically, and it was good for him.
After your third season,
When we look at needs, we're talking about needs, and they're obviously being identified right now, but what is going to be the difference for you because you've gone through this season, knowing the roster, and your sense for the type of gains that could be made from a personnel standpoint, just because you've done it and you know these guys?
Mm-hmm. I feel really comfortable right now, to tell you the truth, with everybody that we have. I honestly believe that the jump that we're going to make is going to be because of the time we just had together. And these guys now are going to come into this thing. They're going to give their ideas, their input. We're going to ask for that. And then we as coaches, offensive coaches, have a big job here ahead of us to get into this player eval thing and try to dive into what fits us best. And once we do that, we figure that out, then we go to him and we say, hey, this is where we're at. This is what we think. We think we're good here. We think we could get better here. And then how do we do that, and can we do that? And that's the fun part in it all. And every team is doing that in the NFL, almost every team right now.
after your third season, you received a contract extension, but I think probably outside of this building, there wasn't a ton of confidence in the Bears. And then you made a series of decisions, starting with hiring Matt, that were good decisions and turned out to be the right ones. Did you change anything about your approach to the job? Did you have a moment of reflection, or how do you explain the difference in the past year from the previous three?
I don't think, Dave, there was any major changes. I think it's just believe in what you're doing, and we're kind of insulated from the outside. So believe in what you're doing and stay true to your processes and your beliefs. I felt this way the whole way, and that's what's so great about Matt is to operate with no regrets. So be aggressive at the right times and never look back on this opportunity one day and say, oh man, I wish we would have done that or that. I think we've shown that we'll be aggressive at the right moments. And I think that's why we fit so well together as we go through this.
Right. You go back a lot.
After a full season with Khalil Mack, you feel good about the price you paid for him?
100%.
Ryan, you go back a long way with that team. Obviously, you brought here, gave him the reward with the contract extension. What were your impressions of the season that he had here, and then obviously the reward with the Pro Bowl?
For sure, and I know for him to finally get recognized for the Pro Bowl, that was huge, you know. And Akeem, he's such a significant player for us up front, and he's become one of our team leaders. And just to see him grow in his years in the league, and I'm so proud of him and just the level of play that he's at right now. He's been a consistent player for us week in and week out, and I still think he's getting better, and he talks about that all the time. His work ethic, how hard he trains, that's going to continue. And again, he's still improving, and I really that whole front. But Akeem is kind of the catalyst behind the whole group.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.